Well, time now to bring you all the day's top business news, and our business editor, Marcus Carlson, is here. And Marcus, we were just talking about this Swiss referendum bringing in quotas on immigration. It's not only creating political waves, it's also having an economic impact as well.
Yeah, this is certainly a business story as well. EU politicians, they've warned that Switzerland is endangering its access to the single market, as you've been hearing throughout the news bulletin. And Swiss companies also say that the level of uncertainty for them has just gone up. It follows that vote by Swiss voters to restrict immigration from the European Union. Nicholas Rushworth takes a look now at the potential economic fallout of this.
The Swiss, in a referendum on Sunday, chose to limit the number of people allowed in from the European Union. That choice casts a shadow over ties with the EU, not least economic ones.
This is a worrying vote because it means that Switzerland wants to withdraw into itself. That is a trend now on one hand, but on the other, there's a paradox. 60% of Switzerland's foreign trade is with the European Union.
Switzerland has damaged itself with this result. Switzerland must realise that cherry-picking with the EU is not a long-term strategy.
Cherry-picking because Switzerland is saying it wants to go back on a freedom of movement agreement with the EU while keeping other advantages. Business leaders are worried whether access to foreign labour will dry up. People on the streets of Geneva, though, say the decision was motivated by a perceived threat to Swiss jobs.
This is all about the economy, because people are afraid that immigrants will come here en masse and take their jobs.
Many young Swiss people finish internships and then have no work. Young French people take their place, so I understand the attitude.
Around 80,000 EU immigrants moved to Switzerland last year. Foreign nationals now make up almost a quarter of the country's 8 million population. Unlike its neighbours, unemployment is low, but the Swiss feel the influx from abroad is scary and want to raise the drawbridge.
We're turning to Australia next. Car maker Toyota said it will stop making cars there by 2017. It's a death knell for Australian car manufacturing. Rivals General Motors and Ford are also pulling out, which means that there will be no car making left in Australia. About 2,500 jobs will be cut at Toyota, but the entire manufacturing sector is seen as a potential casualty. Australian manufacturing costs, they've risen sharply in the past decade, and the value of the Australian dollar means that exports are more expensive out of Australia. The fear is that other companies will follow Toyota's example.
The market and economic factors contributing to the decision include the strong Australian dollar that makes export unviable.
Let's turn to the markets next. Stocks over in the United States, they are mixed this session. As you can see there, the S&P 500 is completely flat and the Nasdaq is up, whereas the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down, but not by much, to be honest. The anticipation is building ahead of an appearance in the US Congress by Janet Yellen on Tuesday. The new Fed chair is expected to set out her predictions for the US economy, and investors seem to be on tenterhooks ahead of that. That is the European close. The CAC 40 and the FTSE 100 in London closed in positive territory. The DAX ever so slightly down. The focus in Europe also on Janet Yellen. We got through some industrial production figures from France early on this session. That didn't seem to be making much of a difference, though, for the CAC 40, seeing that those industrial production figures were actually down ever so slightly. Let's talk you through a few other stories that we're following for you. French cosmetics giant L'Oréal has posted record full-year earnings during 2013 and made just under €3 billion, 3% higher than in 2012. Looking ahead to this year, L'Oréal is also forecasting both higher sales and profits. Shares in the company gained during Monday's trading on speculation that it could buy back some of its own shares from Nestlé. British mobile network operator Vodafone has offered to buy Spain's biggest cable operator Ono. That's according to sources speaking to Reuters. The value of the deal could reportedly top €7 billion. Vodafone is sitting on a cash pile after selling its part of the US operator Verizon Wireless last year. The European cable sector is in Vodafone's crosshairs. It bought Germany's biggest cable group in 2013. And here in France, taxi drivers went on strike this Monday and organised Go Slow protests. They're protesting against the growth of online car services in Paris and other cities. Passengers can book rides by phone or online, and chauffeurs don't require regular taxi licenses. A taxi licence can cost hundreds of thousands of euros in Paris, and taxi companies say the growth of chauffeur-driven cars is unfair competition. A story to keep your eye on there. Laura, it's back to you for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Marcus. We will see you in an hour for another update. But now let's